from the Great Lakes, the wind sings like a wild bird across the northern states, coming at last to this place, this sweep of America. 10,000 square miles of prairie across Montana and Dakota. They call it the Williston Basin. Not so long ago, this was frontier. Listen closely, and you will hear the old ghost echo of covered wagons, the phantom shadows of pioneers fighting for their lives against the wilderness. Lean men hard as hickory, lonely women wearing their dreams like a bit of bright calico. They began with nothing, with their bare hands and a bucket of hope, breaking the land with freedom's plow, planting towns with names American as a banjo tune: Fargo, Stampede, Bluegrass, Beaver Lodge, Lincoln Valley, Williston.
Halverson's my name, Nils Halverson, wheat farmer and school teacher. I was born and raised here, east of Montana along the Canadian line, Williams County, North Dakota. If I were somewhere away at the end of the earth and thinking of home, the thing I'd remember'd be winter. The enormous frozen silence. The snow cutting us off from the world like a wall. The wind slicing across the fields. The way we say it, gets so cold, shadows freeze to the ground and have to be pried loose with a pickaxe. It might seem like a sort of desolate place to some, but we're mostly Norwegian up this way. We've got an old immigrant prayer that goes, "Should all things perish, fleeting as a shooting star, O God, let not the ties break that bind me to the north." Monday morning. I've already put in an hour of chores at the farm by the time I turn up at the school, a one-room country schoolhouse at the edge of a wheat field. I look at these kids with their restless faces, grandchildren of the pioneers, descendants of the long rifle and the bull-tongue plow. I find myself wondering, that proud, searching spirit that drove men out along new trails, is it still alive in them, in me? I wonder if this familiar stretch of land were suddenly to become frontier again, how would we meet the test? It may not be long before we know. There's a tense feeling in the air, a sense of waiting, as though some great door is about to swing open. I remember how it all began, so quietly. A few solitary men climbing the hills, crossing the fields, a geologist searching for clues in the shape of a valley, the composition of a stone, the fossil of a leaf that was green at the time of the dinosaurs. And then the seismograph crew coming in to map the underground, drill a hole and drop a dynamite charge. the shock waves going down to hit the buried layers of stone and bounce back to be recorded on sensitive instruments. By then, we all knew what they were doing. The object of their search was oil. Hard to imagine that somewhere 1,000 miles across the continent, men were adding years of scientific research, checking reports, approaching a decision that might open a new world on our doorstep.
From all of our available data, I'd say that this is it. East of Williston here, south of Tioga, in the southwest of 6, 155.95, there's a fair chance of striking oil in a number of reservoir rocks.
I remember the day last winter, Saturday morning it was. I was working with my pa. He's a tough, stubborn old gent. Been out here in Dakota raising wheat since the days when there was nothing but log cabins and a railroad depot. A friend of ours came by, a local lawyer, Oscar Norstead. He had a fellow with him, a stranger named Roland. Turned out to be a man from the Citadel Oil Company. I remember we invited them inside for some of my wife Barbara's good coffee and the usual talk about the weather and the wheat crop.
The reason I'm here is we'd like to lease the mineral rights on your land. We're offering 10 cents an acre rentals on a 10-year lease.
Wheat is good enough for me.
Most of our operation is underground. The fields are still yours. You can go right on farming.
And if you should hit oil?
You get the standard royalty, 1/8 of every barrel.
Your company is crazy. There's no oil around here.
Every 4 or 5 years, another company comes around, buys up a bunch of leases. There must be half a dozen dry holes out there on the prairie.
We're willing to take our chances. How about it?
We'll think it over.
Do that. We want you to feel right about it. I'll be back in a week or so.
I drink every drop of oil you can find in North Dakota.
No sooner did the first visitor take off than the next one came rolling in. Another landman from Burns Petroleum. I remember within a week we had half a dozen offers. We took our time deciding. We've worked hard for what we've got. It took the sweat of generations to turn the prairie into wheat land. And then came the 30s. I was only a kid, but I'll never forget the dead look of the land burnt dry by the drought. When the wheat went, everything went. The debts piled up until there was nothing a man could do but slam the door and walk away. Somehow my pa hung on. He had a motto, stick and stay, it's bound to pay. And it did finally. A few seasons of rain and the earth was rich again. The fields golden with grain, the wheat like a running river. So now when the oil companies came, we took our time making up our minds. A man with a couple of full silos and 50 head of cattle can afford to take his time. Finally we signed with Citadel. That was last year, and since then not a word out of them. Maybe they've found out there isn't any oil. Maybe Pa was right.
Over at Bronson's place, they started drilling.
Is that right?
They're crazy. It's a bunch of hoodows.
Come on, I want to go see.
Well, all right, let's go take a look. Out in Bronson's North 40, they were putting up a giant 10-story derrick they call a rig. The geologist showed us around, and it was like watching a little town take shape. Welders and roustabouts working in the stinging cold, putting up the drilling platform, digging the mud pit, stacking pipe, stringing power lines, working with numbed feet and icy fingers, getting things ready to sink the drilling bit into the frozen earth.
We can get out of the wind in here.
Guess once you start to drill, you're pretty sure of finding oil down there.
We're not sure of anything. In this business, it's always maybe. The only way to find out is to drill. Only about 1 out of 9 of those wildcats ever comes in.
How much does it cost to drill a well like that?
Well, it depends. The first hole, drilling in this weather, as deep as we'll have to go, probably cost about $500,000. That's the oil business. A real gamble. 1 out of 9 with $500,000 riding on the black.
Pretty tough odds.
Plenty of men willing to take it, especially when there's a chance to make a profit.
Indian arrowhead?
Yeah. Found it right over there, right where we put the rig. It's for luck. We're gonna need it.
In the evenings after that, I watched Barbara. I could see she had visions of an oil well out in the middle of our wheat field, new wallpaper in the parlor, and a college fund for the kids we hope to have someday. And Pa? He keeps saying they're crazy, but he's dreaming too.